This episode of Church Advance is sponsored by ServeHQ.Church. If you're a church leader, you know how tough it is to train and equip volunteers effectively. Between busy schedules, last-minute cancellations, and the need for consistent training, it can feel pretty overwhelming, and that's where ServeHQ comes in. ServeHQ provides on-demand video training, automated follow-ups, and a simple, scalable way to equip your team all in one place. No more chasing people down or worrying about gaps in training. Get your team trained faster and more effectively so you can focus on ministry, not micromanaging. Check them out at www.servehq.church. That's www.servehq.church. And now, let's get to this episode of Church Advance with Brian Sams.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Church Advance podcast. I'm back with my friend Kurt Skelly. Kurt, welcome back, man. It's so good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Hey, listen, today is the day we are going to talk about something that I honestly did not put as much value in for the longest time, unfortunately. Once I did it, once I committed, I became a
You caught the bug. You caught the bug. Yeah.
Right. We're talking about Israel today. We're talking about why it is important for preachers and Christians really to take a trip home to where it all began. And I would tell you that one thing, Kurt, that just struck me. My first trip was with you, of course, and it was a small. I call it when I tell people about our trip when we went. It was like recon. It was like
it was. We went in the middle of the war. Remember?
Yeah. So
I know that sounds like really dangerous, but if you're listening, it was like so safe.
Oh,
we had all the sites to ourselves.
Perspective on our trip because it was Hezbollah attacks Israel in October of 23, October 7th. Yeah. We are in Israel March 24.
Yep.
During Ramadan. We're there during Ramadan.
And listen, we're standing at Jaffa Gate. A couple of the guys that were with us were like nervous. I don't think you were. No. And then all these Muslims are walking by to Ramadan, thousands of them. And about every 5 minutes, somebody would say, "Hey, Pastor Skelly."
Yeah.
Because I've worked with them. They're shop owners, they're guides, they're bus drivers. Yeah. It was completely safe.
So we're there. My first thing I remember, of course, we flew in separately. It just wasn't like a big group. It was 5 of us. And so we all kind of flew in our own way. I got in a day early.
Yep.
And I landed. I'm all by myself, never been to Israel. And you're coaching me. Hey, here, get this ticket, get this train ticket. The first thing I saw in Israel getting off the plane was a sign on the wall of the tarmac that said, "Welcome to Israel, you'll never be the same," or "Your life will never be the same." Mm-hmm. I took a picture of it. And when I was leaving, I thought to myself, that was right, because my life has never been the same. And I mean that. I mean, professionally, I mean, personally, I mean, as a student of the Bible, as a teacher of the Bible, everything about the way I teach the Bible, I teach on college levels, I teach on master's levels, I teach in my church. The whole, everything, now that I'm teaching through Genesis, everything is shaped through what I learned and what I saw there. And now I'm going back in June with you on another little short trip. And then, of course, we're super pumped about releasing our hosted trip with Land of the Bible Tours with myself and Dr. H.B. Charles, December 1 through 11, 2025. I could not be more excited about this trip coming up. And we're wanting to take preachers and anybody that wants to come. And so, Kurt, let's just dive in about, why, maybe we can bounce back and forth. I want to just tell us a little bit about your company, first of all, a little bit about how many times you've been and the impact it's had on your life, and then why we should go.
I was like you. I was a pastor in my, I guess maybe late 30s, early 40s, late 30s. And I had never been to Israel. And I had a friend who said, Kurt, you need to go. And I dismissed it. I'm like, I'm busy. Who has 10 extra days? But he was persistent. And I said, okay, I'll go. And almost reluctantly. And so I went on this Israel trip. I took a few people from our church and I was blown away. I mean, like you, I mean, I was so enraptured. Like the Bible all of a sudden became 3D. It went from black and white to color. I saw things in ways that I could not and would not have otherwise seen them. In fact, I have my earned doctorate right now. I did my doctoral work in basically this concept. Israel is a hermeneutic. So understanding Israel, being in Israel is itself a Bible study aid. Historically, geographically, even chronologically, culturally, you just see it different. So I went that first year and then I said, I got to do this again. So I began hosting a trip every year as a pastor, and I would use different tour companies, whoever was the cheapest, you know. And over the years, the price kept on going up and up and up, and the service was going down and down. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. So I just decided that I would start my own tour company. I had to develop relationships with agents, and I had been at that point probably 15 times, and I did. I started the tour company back in 2016, and we've never looked back. And now I've been to Israel, I want to guess 50 times, 45, 50 times, and it never gets old. I mean, I every trip I'm learning something new. I'm going someplace new. It's one of the joys of my life. And now one of the joys that I have is not only experiencing new things myself, but watching guys like you. Taking Brian, taking this pastor. We just got back last week. 18 pastors went, and it was a smaller group. But man, to watch their eyes open, to watch them weep, to see them connect things together. There's just no way to describe it other than you've got to go.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna hit some highlights of things that happened to me. First of all, first and best memory of Israel. Again, I was there early. You told me I stayed in Muslim quarters.
You fit in. You fit in.
I did. I booked my ticket on the plane going to Israel. I mean, I was just nuts. I don't know. I was just going. But anyways, I walked to the Garden Tomb by myself. And at that time, there weren't near the visitors that were there. I spent an hour and a half by myself in the tomb, or around the tomb. And then you guys came, and then we went together and we sang and we prayed. And obviously, I mean, I just don't know. It's so emotional. It's so overwhelming. It's so real. That part alone takes your breath away.
It does.
When you realize that what is written is not, there's nothing fanciful about it. It is a real location. There's a real tomb. There was a real Jesus. He really died. He walked right here, and it's our faith. And I mean, it is so moving. Everybody has to go to the Garden Tomb for sure.
I just talked to my middle schoolers this morning in a chapel setting, and I said, guys, let's answer this question. Can we trust the Bible? Why can we trust the Bible? And I'm just trying to help them with some apologetics, these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And I said, one of the reasons why we can have great confidence in the Word of God is because of the archaeological evidence. And Jesus said, the rocks, if you don't believe me, the rocks will cry out. And that's very literally fulfilled, because when you go to Israel, you know what you see? Rocks. You know what those rocks are doing? Those rocks are crying out. They're telling you the story of what happened there. They're telling the story of fulfilled prophecy. They're telling the story of these biblical events. And I mean, Brian, I can't wait to take you back in December, because I'll be in country at the same time that you're there, and show you what's been discovered just since you've been there. I mean, it's an ongoing archaeological treasure trove.
Well, giving people a little perspective on that part. So I would say emotional depth is real. It's not even close to the most important thing, which is, I think, just biblical and academic clarity.
Yes.
But here's the thing I think people don't understand about, first of all, archaeology in general. Secondly, Israel specifically with archaeology, is the subject of archaeology is relatively new. And I think if you study it historically, like when it began, it's real beginnings. The real beginnings are in the middle of the 1800s, which I think is interesting because they parallel higher criticism.
Yep.
And it was not that God needed an
It's
answer.
almost as if God left all these things underneath the earth to say, okay, you want to criticize? Let me show you the evidence.
100%.
And over again, these liberal scholars that are saying, well, Pontius Pilate never existed. Oh, wait a minute. We found the Pontius Pilate stone. Oh, the house of David never existed. Well, wait a minute. We found the Tel Dan Stela. Oh, well, Joshua never conquered the land, and Jehovah's not really a name. Oh, we found the Mount Ebal pottery shard. Oh, the word of God's not true. Oh, we found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Oh, the Pool of Siloam didn't exist. Oh, we've uncovered it. And time again, the archaeology is validating what our Bible is telling us.
Yeah, my lecture in a seminary class one time was archaeology is the friend of the Bible.
Yes. I say that all the time.
I didn't need archaeology to believe the Bible, but it sure is amazing when you see it and experience it. So there's that emotional thing, but then there's this academic learning thing. And so every Christian, every pastor needs to stand on the Mount of Olives. Okay, that would be number 2. The tomb is number 1.
I can't believe, like, I totally misread you because I thought I knew.
It's coming.
Okay,
it's coming. It's coming. Okay. It might actually be number 1 overall. I just struggle with it because I was so emotional there. I'm so emotional. Even I might not even be able to get through it and talk about it. And I'll get to it may be the big number 1.
It is number 1.
All my favorites. Okay. But here's the thing. I saw your video the other day from the south, the highest point of the Temple Mount, which we didn't get to go when I was there. I want to go obviously in June. But but when you're on Mount of Olives, of course, up there where so much happens, both during the Bible days and what will happen in prophecy. But man, I just could not believe standing up there, brother. At what you're seeing, Kidron Valley running right beneath you.
All of it, the panorama. You're seeing 20 Bible stories right in front of you.
And I think everybody's got to see that because it just then you see when he's led from the garden to Caiaphas's house, and you just go, yep, okay, well he walked right there, and then the steps.
Yes.
But so Mount of Olives, we were there. We were again fortunate to not be around a huge crowd. The panoramic, as you mentioned, all the stories knitting together. And all of the visual of it is an academic lesson in and of itself. And then, so that's, so there's issue of archaeology, atlas, geography. It's education. It's an education in and of itself. It makes things like going from Nazareth to Jerusalem on foot, 9 months pregnant, look insane.
Yes.
Because you jump on a bus and do it, and it's 70 miles or
yes, more. So,
on foot, 9 months pregnant, and think about God using Caesar Augustus is what it was. He used
Caesar Augustus thought he was the man, but God said, "No, you're not the king. You're the pawn."
Oh man.
You're the pawn. I move you how I want to move you for my purposes.
Oh my goodness. And then, other visuals that bring academics standing where the Valley of Elah.
No. Get to, you know what I'm talking
about. Okay. I'm going there. I'm just going to tell you, this had to be my favorite. I preached a sermon. When I got back, I preached a sermon on it. I'm probably going to preach it next year at a conference I'm preaching at. I was going to, Kurt. I told you about the sermon. Shiloh, man. Shiloh is the place. Hey, listen, the place. And the more you go there, obviously, what's the big story in Shiloh? The big story in Shiloh is the tabernacle was there for 369 years. And this is the Hannah and Samuel story.
Yep.
And man, right when we got there, and I know you saw more last time, but right when we got there, they were just uncovering the actual footings of the permanent tabernacle.
Oh yeah.
Because there's that.
They've had another season of archaeology now, and I'm telling you, you can't believe what's been uncovered. And we stood Like where we stood on the spot of the Holy of Holies.
Mm.
We stood there. So think about this. Think about it this way, Brian. If you look at the Old Testament from Exodus to the end, Malachi. So I say from Moses to Malachi. Let's take away Genesis, because that's thousands of years, right? But if you look at the Old Testament from Moses to Malachi, that's 1,000 years.
Yeah.
You're about the 1400s BC to the 400s BC, 1,000 years. In those 1,000 years, God chose to put his presence in that spot for 1/3 of that time. And we stood there.
Oh, my word.
And then I tell people, and think about it today. God has chosen. We are the tabernacle. We are the temple, my body. And to think that God has chosen, because you look at Shiloh, it's like, oh man, this is a remote place. Well, you know what you are, Brian? You're a remote place. And so am I. And God has put his presence in all these remote places among believers around the world. I mean, it's all.
I've got the pottery pieces right here. I can see them from my desk. The handle, the unique handle pieces that you get. That's thousands of years old that they were using, no doubt, for all these temple tabernacle services. But so to me, the overwhelming thing, of course, when you look at the Bible and you look at, let's say, Joshua through 1 Samuel.
Yep.
Okay. This is such a powerful thing here. The end of Judges, the summary of Judges is 17 through 21, right? The Judges are chapter 3 through 16.
Yep.
And 17 through 21 is the summary. It's the moral collapse. It's the story of those crazy Benjamites, man, and the rape of that woman. And where does that whole thing end up? It ends up in Shiloh.
Right there.
4 times in those 4 chapters, it says there was no king in Israel, and everybody did that which is right in their own eyes. Meanwhile, the sub story. So if you look linearly, and you know, I'm not teaching you, I'm just hoping.
No, I love it.
So Judges runs into 1 Samuel. I mean, because Ruth happens during Judges.
Yep.
Okay, what's the last word of the book of Ruth?
Yeah.
David.
Yeah, right.
Word. So there's no king, there's no king, there's no king. But down here, the king is coming.
Yeah.
First chapter of Samuel takes place where? Shiloh.
Yes.
And who's going to announce the king? It's Samuel.
Yep.
So linearly, there's this chaotic, literally unbelievable story of the Benjamites and this nutso civil war and the snatching of the brides in the vineyards of Shiloh.
Crazy. Yep. and one of those brides was Saul's grandma.
Oh my word. Yeah. And the next thing that happens chronologically is Hannah and her husband come there to worship. I don't care what's going on around me. I got to get to Shiloh. Shiloh is where God is, right? Okay, so then there, as we all know, she comes as close to the holy place as she could get as a woman, and she is praying her heart out for a baby, and God answers. The Lord hears me, Samuel.
God gives a miraculous birth.
Oh, come on! All right, so you were there. This is the great part of the story. We were there. I mean, I'm just so overwhelmed. We've battled infertility, and you know that. Yeah. We've adopted 4 kids. We struggle. We prayed like crazy for kids. And I'm in there, man. I'm just lit up with it. I just can't believe I'm standing there. I'm trying to record a video for Angie. I'm blobbering all over.
I remember.
And we lost the video.
I remember.
It was the best video I've ever shot in my life, and we lost it. And
it's in heaven.
It's in heaven. Angie will see it one day. And we stopped and prayed for people that were struggling with kids. And we prayed, you and me, and those other 3 pastors.
Yep.
Stood there and prayed for Emily Vaughn and Stephen Vaughn. And that was in March.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like a month later, you remember I sent you the picture? Look at this, dude.
Yeah.
They are pregnant, and the baby is due in January. And I am telling you, man, you talk about real and overwhelming. The answers to prayer, God was still there.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, you know what I mean. But the symbolism of it and what it meant.
Yes. Think about this. Jeremiah was preaching to this uppity crowd in Jerusalem, these religious leaders that thought, God will never destroy this beautiful temple of ours. And God said to Jeremiah, you go tell them, go to Shiloh and see if I'm not unwilling to tear everything down, you know, so we go to Shiloh. And part of going to Shiloh is to remember, wow, Lord, you're serious about your holiness. Wow, you're serious about your people serving you. You're serious. So, and that happens every site. You know, we are stuck on Shiloh, but Brian, that's what the trip's all about. It's this. The trip is this. It's up here in your head, but man, it invades your heart every single site.
I am so strong about it now that I would make the case to Bible colleges and everybody, make this part of your curriculum. I don't know how in the world I earned a doctorate without going to Israel. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think I knew anything. And again, that's an overstatement. That I understand that, but it is so transformative. It gives so much insight. I mean, on the way home, I bought the Moody's Atlas of the Bible. It is on my desk.
One I use. That's one I use. It's a great one.
It never leaves my desk. It's set here all the time. It's right here. Right. Yep. I mean,
look behind me right now.
Yeah.
Maps. You gotta have it. Yeah.
How many times have you just read through the Bible and you're like, have you stopped to think, where is this? When you go to Israel, you know where it is. You know where it's like, you know why Shiloh was so strategic as a point, because of how centrally located it is so easy for the people to come and worship it 3 times a year, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. So let's just, we could sell it, but let's talk about, obviously that's why somebody needs to come. We have a trip December 1 through 11, 2025. There's many other trips. I think you'd want to be there. Maybe when me and Kurt are there, some of our friends know HB Charles. It's going to be a real treat to have him with us. And I think I saw there's another great group going to be there same time. There's many other things going on that time. It's going to be a great time to be there. It's going to be lots of great Christians and preachers and great stuff going on that time. So the pastor's out there, Kurt, that says, man, I just can't, I don't have time or money. Let's talk to them just to.
So I would say this to, if you're a pastor, I would say this. Number one, I have a good relationship with all of our vendors in Israel. We have an A+ rating with all of them. So I'm able to get some negotiated discounts, even below cost, for pastors. And that's why I do these pastors trips, because they are a fraction of the cost of a regular trip. So for instance, we have this pastors trip. There might even be time, depending on the launch of this podcast, for you to join us this May, June. But get on the website, landofthebible.org, not .com, but .org. And there are pastors trips that we've scheduled this June, also in January. That's a good thing to do. And I would say this, Pastor, if you're planning to take your church in the future, and you ought to go ahead of your church. And here's what I found, Brian. Most churches are more than happy to use money from their missions program or their staff development. Send your pastor. And I would say this, if you're not a pastor right now, urge your leadership at your church to send your pastor. It will be not only a benefit to him, but I promise you will be the beneficiary too, because of his preaching. So number one, pastors trips. Number two, we actually price the trips to Israel in such a way that pastors get a certain number of people to go, and you're going to go free. Pastors obviously aren't making a ton of money, and I really wanted to build in to the whole structure of Israel a way by which for pastors to be able to go, their wives, even. We send a staff member every year at Faith Baptist Church. It's part of our budget. We send a staff member every year because we just feel that is an important component of ministry development.
Yeah, and I was preaching in California this weekend, and talking to the guy about Israel, just telling him you got to go. And he's like, man, we've redone the budget. So you know what I did? He has a very wealthy man in his church, a guy he lent me his ride for the week, and I just got to know him. Obviously, very wealthy guy. And you know what? I was at his house waiting on the pastor. I said, hey Jeff, let me tell you something. Get your pastor to Israel. And you know what the guy said? Oh, done. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying.
Mention to that guy that I'm looking for a new car. If you just mentioned that to him,
100%. Great guy. Loves his preacher. Loves preachers in general. And I was sharing with them in a message, something that was relative to Israel. I was preaching in Genesis 11 about the table of nations and describing some of where Japheth settled and where, I mean, it's all very real now. And it led to that conversation. And so I do think you're right. Just talk to your church. Most guys have conference budgets.
Yep.
Let me tell you something. You'd rather spend $4,000 to go to Israel than
it's going to not cost nearly that for a pastor.
Yeah, for a pastor trip. Even if you went on a big trip, a normal trip, 4,000 or whatever. Yep. Okay, let's say that's the max. Okay, you're going to spend $2,000-3,000 easy going to any conference in America between hotels, flights, and there is 0% chance you are going to learn as much and be blessed as much by going to Israel. And I just don't think I
had a pastor last week. We just got back, as you know, and he had never been, older guy, and he was weeping. And I called him by name. I said, "It's better than a semester at Bible college, isn't it?" He said, "A semester."
100%.
He said, "This is a Bible college experience in 10 days." So, I mean, I know I sound like a salesman, but honestly, it's a ministry to me. I want people to go. I know what it does for them. I know what it does for the people whom they serve.
Let me give you a side note for the bigger trips also, just for some perspective. I have been fortunate to meet some, people that a lot of people know, here in Jacksonville, different conferences, you just meet guys that maybe have a national scale or whatever. And I have talked to them. One guy that I needed, I'll talk to you off the air on this one, but a guy that is very interested in his whole organization going, and I'll talk to you about that. But I told him the price, Kurt, the $399 price or whatever the price is. He was like, "No way." I said, "Bro," I'm telling you right now, Land of the Bible Tours has the best by far. Some of these clowns are, I mean, it's like $500.
I see them $5,500, and I just kind of shake my head because someone's walking away with a big paycheck, and normal people are paying the bill. And I decided I would not do that. I
appreciate that. And I will say this secondly, Kurt, I'm your friend, obviously, but I have been personally blessed by your teaching as just a preacher. But then, brother, I mean, I felt like a Sunday school kid, man. I felt like a Sunday school kid. Capernaum, that was another huge memory.
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me? This is actually, you've just have such a wealth of information. You're going to learn. And then with every group is the archaeological guy, the historical guy, which brings a whole other piece in. And now by the time I get there, it'll be 2 or 3 times that I'll go before leading the trip. And I feel like, that's going to allow another depth of the Bible content, the Bible stories that I'll be able to share with, of course, H.B. Charles, who's just one of the best. But hey, listen, thanks for coming on and talking about it. If you got questions about it, it's landofthebible.org. You can connect with Kurt there on his website. Join us December 1 through 11, 2025, or look on the website, find a pastor's trip to go on. And God bless you guys, and shalom. We'll see you in
Shalom.
Take care. See you next time.